Welcome to the Spooky Scary Show. We are two friends in two different states who discuss all things spooky, scary, and just downright strange. We read news stories every week. If you would like to suggest a topic or submit a paranormal story, email us at spookyscaryshow@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for spooky facts and updates.
Hiya, ghosties and Pinky.
Hello.
How goes it, everybody?
Me? Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Am I everybody?
I know. You are my everybody.
Aww. It's going pretty good. I had a week full of 2-hour early releases because it was conference week at school, and I got to go home early today, and I have a 3-day weekend. Yeah.
I'm so lucky. We are doing another twofer. This is beginning to be a trend, but it's Charlie's birthday, so we are going to be getting a cabin up north next weekend, so I'm super excited about that.
That'll be so fun. Yeah. It's gonna be kind of chilly up there.
I checked already, and it's actually not that bad. It's only like in its 50s, and then 27 at nighttime. So.
Oh, yeah. That's like here. That's like Washington.
Oh, snap. Ooh, I'm ready. I'm excited.
It's been really nice. It was really nice today. It was like 60 and sunny, and it felt amazing.
Oh.
It's like perfect sweater, boot weather. You can be outside. You don't have to wear a coat. You can wear like fuzzy socks and boots and feel amazing.
Oh. See, I still try and dress like that. I have like the typical white girl like Ugg kind of boots.
It's too hot.
I know. It's like I just want to be cute. I want to be like little bohemian, with like the hat and then like the shawl, and then it's just like it's hot. My God.
I got here and I owned 0 sweaters or long sleeve shirts, and I'm just like, shit, it is cold. But I've adjusted and brought new clothes, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what is the topic today?
Our topic is hometown homicides. Is that it?
Yeah.
Or hometown murder? Okay.
Hometown, it rhymes, or not rhymes, it's just like phonetically pleasing. Hometown homicides.
Hometown.
Even though, is it still considered a homicide if your person didn't die?
Probably yeah. Hometown murders.
Well, it's not a murder either. Hometown attempted homicides.
We're just doing the best we can.
It's not good. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. Well, technically mine's not in my hometown, but it is in Arizona, and you guys might have heard about this one. It's about Jared Lee Loughner. So he was born on September 10th, 1988, which makes him 31 years old, if my math is correct.
It's probably not. Just kidding. Sorry. That was mean.
Yes, Mrs. Pinky. I'm offended. So this took place in Tucson, Arizona. So Jared Lee Loughner is most commonly known as a American mass murderer at the age of 22. Bum, bum, bum.
That's young.
Yeah. So I kind of, as usual, deep dove into like his background and then what kind of like led up to the day of the attack. So his personal background is Jared is an only child, and they were described by a neighbor as a very private family. Amy, his mother, worked for the city parks department, and Randy, his father, was a retired gasoline truck driver, but journalists did not determine if he worked outside of the house at the time of the shooting. While Jared, the shooter, had friends in high school, neighbors noted that in the following years he kept more to himself and rarely spoke to others. This is where you kind of see a slight behavioral change in him. Loughner attended Mountain View High School, but he dropped out in 2006.
Didn't you know people that went to Mountain View? That was pretty...
I think I do, because Mountain View sounds hella familiar.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me, too. Anyway.
So, around this time, when he was about 18 years old, those who knew him noted a change in his personality. So, he's 18, so body's kind of going through some changes. So, at some point, Loughner Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna call him Jared. At some point, Jared was fired from his job at Quiznos restaurant. Side note, are Quiznos even still around?
I think so.
Is that still relevant? I like their subs.
We don't have them here, but we don't have them close to here. They might be in, like, Olympia, but I don't know.
Oh well. So at his job at Quiznos, his manager stated that he had undergone personality transformation. It didn't specify if he was let go because of that, but that was about pretty much it for that job. So after Quiznos, Jared briefly volunteered at a local animal shelter, walking dogs, but he was eventually asked not to return. The shelter manager stated that he was walking dogs in an area that they didn't want the dogs to be walked, and he didn't understand or comprehend what the supervisor was trying to tell him. He just was resistant to that information. So he was kind of having trouble with, like, direction and just maybe, like, processing things. Jared's former classmate and friend, Tong Shan, stated that her last encounter with Loughner was in October of 2010, after he was suspended and dropped out of college just before he purchased a semi-automatic handgun used in the shooting. She said that while Loughner was anti-government, he never appeared violent, nor did he mention his plans to buy a gun. According to court records, Jared had 2 previous offenses in October of 2007. He was cited in Pima County for possession of drug paraphernalia, and on October 13th, 2008, he was charged after defacing a street sign near Tucson. Those charges were later dropped. The police report noted that he drew a stylized CX, which Jared said were Christian symbols. Kelsey Hawks, an ex-girlfriend from high school, said she was shocked after hearing of his arrest, and she said, and I quote, "I've always known him as a sweet, caring Jared." So during all this, he was known to, do drugs. So his classmate, Zach Osler, indicated that Jared's life began to unravel after his high school girlfriend broke up with him, which I feel like you shouldn't even drag her into anything, because that's just fucked up.
Right, like it's her fault.
Yeah, but apparently after this, he began to abuse alcohol,
Still
cannabis, cocaine, mushies, LSD, and salvia.
And still not the drug's fault either. Okay.
Okay. The mushies. So, I mean, I got most of this from Wikipedia, so after struggling with drugs for more than 2 years, Jared gave up alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs in late 2008, and has not used since, according to one of his longtime friends. Well, he will never, because obviously he's in jail. So it is believed that he wanted to get sober after being rejected by the U.S. Army. However, that's, like, not officially stated anywhere. He was rejected as unqualified to service in 2008 because he admitted to marijuana use on numerous occasions during the application process.
Fucked up. It's kind of just like an intelligence test. Like, are you smart enough to deny that you've used drugs or not? If you're not smart enough to deny, then we can't have you here, sorry.
What? Why would you even, like, you're trying to get into the army, you know?
Yeah.
They sigh. After that, this is where more of the extreme behavioral changes kind of come forth. So, in the months leading up to the shooting, Jared's parents came increasingly alarmed at their son's behavior, at one point resorting to disabling his car every night in order to keep him at home. On one occasion, his father confiscated his shotgun, and both parents urged him to get help. He also became obsessed with controlling what he perceived to be lucid dreaming. In the midst of all this, he actually ends up getting suspended from college. So from February to September 2010, while a student at Pima County College, Jared had 5 contacts with college police for classroom and library disruptions. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So then 8 months, he had 5 run-ins. Oh my god. Some of his teachers complained to the administration about his disruptions and bizarre behavior, as they thought it was a sign of mental illness and feared what he might do. On September 29, 2010, college police also discovered a YouTube video shot by Jared in which he spoke in commentary that the college was illegal according to the United States Constitution. He described his school as, air quotes, one of the biggest scams in America, air quote. I mean, college.
I was gonna say, I mean, he's not wrong, but he makes all of us that are like that look like psychos.
Oh,
thanks, Jared.
Swear to God. The college decided to suspend Jared and sent a letter to his parents to consult them and him together. The college told Jared that if he wanted to return to the college, he needed to resolve his code of conduct violations and obtain a mental health clearance, indicating in the opinion of a mental health professional, his presence did not constitute a danger to himself or to others. So, yeah, that was back in, September, and then on October 4th, Jared and his parents met with the campus administrators, and Jared indicated that he would drop out of college. Yikes.
Did he not? He didn't get the mental evaluation?
Nope. It was like, you get help and you come back here, or you can't come back here at all, and he was just like, college is a scam, and said nope.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. I pulled little clippings of what teachers and students, how they described him. So, during Jared's time at the Pima College, a classmate said she worried that he might commit a school shooting.
Yikes.
Yeah. One of his teachers has claimed in a similar suspicion after the Tucson shooting. He never submitted to a mental health evaluation and did not return to college. So other teachers agreed and was like, he might. I mean, it kind of seems like it.
Okay, let's just pause here because this shit happens a lot. People see these things happening. People know that there's a problem. These people have guns and they know that there's a problem, but it just slips right through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not to be all political, but this is a solution here that's not violating the U.S. Constitution? I don't know.
Well, you work in schools, so you to be, I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to think about it. But it is something that, it's in your life, and it is something that you do have to think about. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's horrible.
I have worked with individuals who I've been like, uh-oh, for his future. Yikes, spikes. And I've gone through the proper channels to inform people that, hey, there's a problem here that is going to be a big problem in the future. And everybody's going to be like, yeah, we saw it, we told people, nothing happened.
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy. I hate how that's I don't know. I just hate to think of anybody, teachers and students and everything. And it is true. I mean, these people are like, hey, I don't think you should come back. And it took them a few times before administration or however that works was actually like, okay, yeah, you can't come back here.
Yeah.
So several college classmates recalled an incident in which Jared, during a classroom discussion, had mocked and laughed at a young woman who was describing her abortion. I don't know how this came up in conversation at school. But one classmate described Jared's reaction as wildly inappropriate because he started making comments about terrorism and laughing about killing the baby.
Oh, God.
Yeah, former classmate recalled on the ABC News, so yeah. Another classmate recalled that a girl had written a poem about the abortion. It was very emotional, and she was teary-eyed about it. And he said something about strapping a bomb to the fetus and making a baby bomb out of it.
Holy shit.
again, making people feel very uncomfortable and alerting teachers of like, hey, please don't let him come back until he gets evaluated.
This guy's a frickin' sadist.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So now we're gonna get on his view on politics and conspiracy theories.
Oh, God.
So, don't kill me, universe, and everybody in America, but I am not political. I don't really know any lingo, so feel free to make your own decisions about, I don't know.
I'm a little bit political. I'll make your decisions for you.
There we go. Pinky for president, President Pinky.
I'd make a fantastic president.
Everybody must have pink hair on the first
Taxation
day.
is theft.
Okay, so with that being said, ghosties, Loughner was registered as a independent and voted in 2006 and 2008, but not in 2010. So he loved his conspiracy theories about 9/11 attacks, the New World Order, and believed in a 2012 apocalypse, among other popular controversial viewpoints. I mean, I fell down those same rabbit holes too, but, you know, yikes. So on social media, so the sites did not really specify, but I'm guessing Facebook? The Anti-Defamation League reviewed messages from Jared and concluded that there was a disjointed theme that runs through Jared's writings, which was a distrust for and dislike of the government.
Which doesn't make you a sociopath, just so you know. Continue.
And it manifested itself in various ways, air quotes. For instance, in the belief that the government used the control of language and grammar to brainwash people, the notion that the government was creating, air quote, infinite currency, end quote, without backing of gold and silver, or the assertion of NASA was faking their space flights.
Is this
so? I mean, it's just. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm siding on the side of this guy, but it's just like I feel like everybody goes through a phase where they kind of fall through the rabbit hole and.
Well, the points that this article's picking to discredit him. I mean, I get it's like, oh, cuckoo, Alex Jones, like conspiracy type person, but I don't know. Have an open mind, people. Yeah. He's probably yes, he is a terrible person and said some really weird things, but those weird things he said put me off more than him thinking that the NASA faked moon landings, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel ya. So his best friend from high school said, and I quote, Jared did not watch TV. He disliked the news, which, same. He didn't listen to political radio, which, gross. He didn't take sides. He wasn't on the left, and he wasn't on the right. Same.
Same.
I guess his, meltdown kind of began more in adulthood. So the tone of Jared's online writings and videos from immediately before the attack were described by The Guardian as, air quotes, almost exclusively conservative and anti-government, which echoes of the populist campaigning of the Tea Party movement. Now, Pinky, can you explain that?
The Tea Party movement?
Conservative? Well, I guess his claims are just anti-government, right?
Conservative is Republican. But again, they're using his right-leaning views to make him, to discredit him, when really it is, he has a mental illness, it sounds like to me so far. And that's another problem that we have, is people being ignored and not getting help for their mental illnesses. It doesn't have anything to do with being right-wing or left-wing or politics.
Yeah, no, he definitely needed to get the help, and it's like his parents knew too, but, I mean, kind of speaking from more of a personal standpoint, somebody I'm very close to, I don't want to say, had to watch their family, we all had to watch the family member kind of descend into their, schizophrenia, and just getting this person to go to the doctors and actually, get checked out was like pulling teeth, and this person, he in high school was like a football player. He was just, he was very muscular and strong. And then he literally dropped down to like 100 pounds because of like his mental illness was in full effect, and he couldn't eat, and he was just doing all sorts of weird stuff. So I understand how hard it is to get help, but with a lot of, perseverance and family love, like, hopefully you can. In other cases, you can't. So it's like, as much, I don't feel like you should, we're not, but anybody to really kind of point the fingers at the parents and be like, well, why didn't you get him help? Well, it's like, it's not easy. It's not.
And I'm pointing fingers at, like, society as a whole and to the way that we look at mental illness. Like, why wouldn't he want to get help? Well, have you seen mental hospitals? Like, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a mental institution? It's probably not a pretty picture. I don't blame people.
Yeah, yep. Or even just getting someone to think, like, hey, something might not be right. Like, are you okay? When you're in the midst of it, you think, or at least this person was just like, no, everything's okay. Like, I don't understand, like, why you guys keep telling me this. Like, this is reality.
Like, defensive, yeah. Like, it's an attack on your character. I get that.
Yeah.
Sad. It's actually really sad.
It is. That's crazy.
Because it's not just the person who got injured. It's his life that got lost, too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, a former friend, their name was Bryce Tierney, said Jared had expressed a long-standing dislike for Gabrielle Giffords. It's like, when I have to think about it, I can't say it. Anyways, so his friend recalled that Jared had often said that women should not hold positions of power. He repeatedly derided Giffords as a fake. So he didn't think that Gabrielle was, like, legitimately running? I don't know. This is a bold statement, guy. Rude. Yikers. I might not know much about politics, but I do know ladies fought really hard to be able to. So, excuse me. Fuck off. Another friend of Jared's later told the New York Times that Jared's anger would also well up at the sight of President George W. Bush, or in discussing what he considered to be the nefarious designs of the government. So preparation, so kind of like before the day of the attack. So on November 30th, 2010, Jared allegedly purchased a 9mm Glock pistol used from a Sportsman warehouse in Tucson. I don't know my gun, so is that just like a normal bing bing gun?
It's kind of like what I have. It's like a little black pistol.
Okay. The night before the shooting, at 2:05 a.m., he left a message on a friend's voicemail saying, and I quote, "Hey man, it's Jared. Me and you had good times. Peace out. Later." End quote. So something's going on. In a MySpace post, oh my god, this is 2010. Who uses MySpace? I graduated in 2010, okay?
That 2009 was the year that I made a Facebook, that I started to transition, but I was still using MySpace at that point in time.
Well,
you graduated in 2009?
No, I said 2010, but I don't think I graduated in 2010.
You might have. I graduated in 2012.
I think my class was 10 and 11. I don't know how that works. Anywhooser. In a MySpace post the morning of the shooting at 4:12 a.m., he wrote, "Goodbye, friends. Please don't be mad at me. The literacy rate is below 5%. I haven't talked to one person who is literate. I want to make it out alive. The longest war in the history of the United States. Goodbye. I'm saddened with the current currency in job employment. I had a bully in school. Thank you. P.S. Plead the fifth."
Holy shit. That was a lot to process.
I know! What the fuck? Goodbye. And also, I'm not done. I'm also sad because there's no fucking jobs right now. And also, I had a bully.
Okay.
The MySpace page showed a close-up photo of a handgun sitting on top of a document titled United States History. So I guess that's his profile picture. That article could have just said profile picture. On January 8th, 2011 at 7:04 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Welcome to Arizona. Jared went to a Walmart store near Foothills Mall to purchase ammunition, but left that store and completed his purchase at Walmart at 7:28 a.m. He was stopped by Arizona Game and Fish Department Officer Alan Edward Forney at 7:34 a.m. for running a red light, but once the officer determined that there were no outstanding warrants for Jared, he was allowed to proceed to his destination with a warning to drive carefully. Now, only if he got a fucking ticket or gotten arrested. There's a million what-ifs, I could tell ya.
Yeah.
So, Jared then took a taxi to a Safeway supermarket location in Casas Adobes, where Representative Giffords was holding a Constitution's meeting. At 10:10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Jared opened fire on U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords from close range, hitting her, since she was his main target. In this attack, he ended up killing 6 people, including Chief of U.S. District Court Judge John Roll, as well as a 9-year-old bystander, Christina Taylor Green.
Oh, I didn't know he killed other people. Damn.
Loughner shot and injured a total of 13 people, including one man who was injured while subduing him. So Gifford's apparent target of the attack was shot in the head and critically injured. So, I mean, what a fucking asshole. Regardless.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So I kind of went back into Gabby's struggle to survive, which I thought was amazing. Gabby's intern, Daniel Hernandez Jr., provided first aid assistance to her immediately after she was wounded and is credited with saving her life. She was quickly evacuated to the University Medical Center of Tucson in critical condition, though she was still conscious and following commands at the time.
Which is insane. She got shot in the fucking head with a 9mm at close range? What?
On the same day, doctors performed emergency surgery to extract skull fragments and a small amount of necrotic tissue from her brain. So the bullet passed through Gabby's head without crossing the middle line of the brain, where most critical injuries typically result. Oh, I mean, as far as gunshots go, she got pretty fucking lucky with where that thing went and how close it was.
Pretty fucking lucky. Holy shit balls. That's insane.
Oh, stresses me out so bad, I'm sweating. So part of her skull was removed to avoid further damage to the brain from pressure caused by swelling. Doctors who first treated Gabby said the bullet entered the back of her head and exited through the front of her skull, but physicians later concluded that it had traveled in the opposite direction. So they thought it went from the back to the forward, but it actually went from the forehead back. Gabby initially was placed in an induced coma to allow her brain to rest. She was able to respond to simple commands when periodically awakened, but was unable to speak as she was on a ventilator. For one, being awake on a ventilator has to be the worst thing ever.
Horrible.
Oh, man. So Nancy Pelosi said Gabby's husband, Mark Kelly, acknowledged that there was a rough road ahead for his wife's recovery, but was encouraged by her responsiveness, which included the ability to signal with her hand and move both arms. So on January 11th, the day after the shooting, neurosurgeon G. Michael Lemole Jr. said that Gifford's sedation had been reduced in that she could breathe on her own. So day after, amazing results. The following day, on the 12th, President Barack Obama visited Gabby at the medical center and publicly stated in an evening memorial ceremony that she had opened her eyes for the first time that day. So sad. Mm-hmm. As Gabby's status improved, by mid-January, she began simple physical therapy, including sitting up with the assistance of the hospital staff and moving her legs upon command. By March, Her husband informed her that 6 other people had been killed in the attack on her, but he did not identify who they were until months later. In late April, Gabby's doctors reported that her physical, cognitive, and language production abilities have improved significantly, placing her in the top 5% of patients recovering from similar injuries. So literally 5% of people in fucking proof, which is crazy.
Yeah.
She was also walking under supervision with perfect control of her left arm and leg and able to write with her left hand. She was able to read and understand and spoke in short phrases. With longer effort, she was able to produce more complex sentences, and she was able to make her first public appearance on August 1st. So, damn.
Freaking amazing.
Insane.
She got shot in the head. And
Yep.
the brain's ability to repair itself, if the damage was what sounds like pretty minor, she could talk, she can walk, she can move, she can read. Like,
Yep.
her brain will rewire.
Yep. And I think it is, on average, it takes a brain, I think 6 or 7 years to heal from a stroke. And she could have been in years of recovery, but she's just like, oh, hell no, fuck this guy. I'm gonna jump back on the horse and continue my journey. No. So going back to the murder charges, after eventually facing more than 50 federal criminal charges, Jared pleaded guilty to 19 of them in a plea bargain to avoid the death sentence, which, when I was researching a topic to pull, like, the death sentence is still something that is commonly used here. We kind of put people, we put them down, we just put them to sleep, so this guy should have been fucking put down.
I was gonna say, do you not agree with the death sentence?
For this guy, I mean, 19 charges of murder, like, fuck this guy.
How 19? I thought he only shot 13 people.
They probably racked it up because of the 2 government officials.
Oh.
That's probably how that worked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And as somebody who is facing, like, life in prison, I'm surprised more people, like, don't want the death penalty.
Right?
I definitely don't want to live my entire life in prison. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's the easy way out.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's another guy, he just basically hijacked a car and killed the 2 people in the car, and he was put down in, like, early 2000. He was, like, called the bystander killer in Arizona. I almost have a story on him, but meh. But it's just like, okay, that guy, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. If you do just put him down, it's just like they don't actually get to sit in solitary confinement. And they get 3 meals a day and shower and, I don't know.
Yeah. My thing, though, is, like, if there are any people that could be falsely convicted, like, it would just be horrible if this happened to somebody that was innocent, you know?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a saying, it's like, I'd rather 10 guilty men go free than 1 innocent be put away, or something along those lines. I agree with that. Like, if that's the way that the justice system works, if people who are guilty end up getting away, instead of our justice system murdering an innocent person, then that's the way it has to be, I guess.
Yeah. There's a show on Netflix where it's called, like, Not Guilty or something, and it's, like, all these stories about these people who were, like, wrongly convicted for a crime they didn't do, and that is my worst fucking nightmare.
Oh, just, like, wrong place, wrong time. It's awful.
Kinda, yeah.
And, like, the shit that they'll pull to make you look like a bad person and spin things in their favor. And then it comes down to, like, oh, do you have enough money to have somebody represent you? Or, like, you know, it's like if you don't have money to pay for a high-end lawyer who knows the ins, who has the ins with the judge and the ins with the system, then you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're right. I agree. I know. Okay. So, this is my last little blurb. So, after his arrest, 2 medical evaluations diagnosed Jared with paranoid schizophrenia and ruled him incompetent to stand trial. He was placed on medication while in jail as part of his treatment. He was again judged incompetent in May 2012, and in August 2012, Jared was judged competent to stand trial at the hearing, where he pleaded guilty to the 19 counts. And then in November 2012, he was sentenced to life plus 140 years in federal prison.
Jesus Christ.
I know. It's crazy. Anyways, take me to Washington. I am done thinking about this guy.
Ugh, mine's not any better.
Oh, God.
For one, I don't know what the fuck is up with Washington and all of our fucked up people. It must be the lack of sunshine, because we have the I-5 killer, we have not Ed Gein, the Green River killer, we have Ted Bundy.
Oh, God.
There was, like, a list. I'm like, holy shit.
Really?
Ted Bundy? What the fuck?
I know! That's crazy!
They're all these, like, good-looking, charismatic guys. Ugh.
Yeah, everybody loved them. They're Ted Bundy. They're like, oh my god, he's so hot. And I'm like, ew.
Ugh, so not. But I get that, though. I get that, like, you could find somebody attractive and then, like, let your guard down and just get yourself into a situation.
Yeah.
Ladies, you need to protect yourself.
That's how they do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let your guard down for no pretty eyes and curly hair.
That's right.
Okay, so the I-5 killer, the story is by L. John Wortham. With the 428th pick in the 1974 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers selected one of the most violent killers in U.S. history. No one is saying football led Randall Woodfield down his dark path, but did it perhaps deter him from it, at least for a while? Even as crime scenes go, this one was sensationally gruesome. Shari Hull, age 20, laid splayed naked on the floor, blood pooling near her matted hair, brain matter seeping from her skull and spackling the carpet. She was surrounded by her discarded clothes. Gradually, her moans and her deep, labored breathing diminished until her body was drained of life.
I'm so sad. Sometime
around 9 o'clock. Yeah, this guy's pretty gruesome. I don't know if we should give, like, a content warning here.
Disclaimer.
There's a lot of rape and underage rape, and it's bad.
Okay, at least I'm ready for it.
Yeah, the content warning is for you.
I know, literally. I hate how they all get, like, so rapey.
Yeah. God. It goes into, like, the egotistical power. Yeah. Sometime around 9 o'clock on the evening of January 18th, 1981, Hull had been nearing the end of her Sunday night shift, cleaning the Transamerica office building in the Central Oregon town of Kaiser. She was preparing to leave when she was grabbed by a man who'd somehow managed to enter the building. He was strikingly handsome, maybe 6 feet tall, blessed with a torrent of thick, curly brown hair and eyes to match. He was wearing jeans and a leather jacket, corralling Hull with one hand and holding a gun in the other. He walked down a hall. Soon he saw another cleaner, 20-year-old Lisa Garcia.
Run!
The assailant took both women into a back room and ordered them to the floor. After sexually assaulting them, he shot them each in the back of the head. Hull died of her gunshot wounds. Garcia survived by feigning her death, lying motionless on the floor with slugs lodged in the back of her skull. As soon as her attacker left, she called the police. En route, one officer noticed a thickly built man fitting the assailant's description standing at an intersection, but this was more than a mile from the attack. It would have taken a hell of an athlete to make it that far so quickly on foot, so the policemen drove on. For weeks afterward, Garcia worked with detectives to crack the case. Little did she know, this attack was one of the many allegedly carried out by the same man. She was helping track one of the most notorious serial murderers in the U.S. history. Nicknamed the I-5 Killer, he had threaded a trail of almost unspeakable brutality up and down the upper left corner of America, killing in California, Oregon, and Washington. So, the I-5 is the highway that I take, like, that is right by my house.
Stop it!
But it runs, like, through California all the way, like, Washington to Cali. It's a big highway.
Boy. Oh, damn! That's crazy.
Yeah. His violence started in the mid-1970s. By the time he'd gotten to Hull and Garcia, he'd already killed quite a few. Many more murders would follow. Based on DNA evidence and advancing crime lab techniques, the I-5 killer's body count has climbed through the years. Cold case detectives have conversely put that number at a dozen, though a few journalists and armchair detectives believe he's responsible for as many as 44 deaths.
Shit.
And that doesn't include a string of more than 100 other crimes, mostly robberies and rapes, that bear his hallmarks.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, pretty frickin' brutal.
Fuck this guy. Jesus.
The I-5 killer's victims were mostly from the same subset. Petite, Caucasian women in their teens or 20s. Sometimes they had declined his sexual advances and the killings seemed to be acts of retribution. Other times he didn't know his victims at all. But he had his way with them and then snuffed out their lives because he could. He wore what appeared to be a strip of athletic tape over the bridge of his nose, in the manner of a football player at the time. Not long before turning into one of America's most depraved and remorseless serial killers, Randall Woodfield had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, fuck out of here. So we gotta let everybody know I'm a football player. All the women want me. Blah, blah, blah.
Pretty much 100%.
Fuck this guy. I hate you.
And
I hate
NFL
you,
scout... Oh, he's
Sorry.
really a garbage human being. No, you're good. An NFL scout had come to see Randall Woodfield, the Vikings' leading receiver. He had been impressed with Woodfield's hands and athleticism, but when he asked Stratton for further assessment, the coach wavered. Randy runs decent routes, Stratton said with enthusiasm, and he's good to the outside. He spoke positively about the speed that enabled Woodfield to run high hurdles for the school's track team. But he also mentioned Woodfield's glaring deficiency. He didn't like getting hit. Not by the safety, not by the linebacker, not by anyone.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to get hit because he's a pretty boy, and he's like, you can't mess up my perfect physique, bitch.
It's really true. Like, that's funny that you say that, because it's legit how he is.
American Psycho. Like that movie.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my
I'm surprised you have.
It's so good. Oh, you have to watch it.
Teammates and coaches' memories of Woodfield vary widely. Some remember him as unassuming and quiet, if a bit odd. He really didn't fit in, says Anthony Sudemeyer, who was a freshman quarterback at PSU in 1973. He'd make out-of-the-blue, off-the-wall statements. Sudemeyer's brother, Charles, was a halfback on that team. He recalls Woodfield for his vanity. Randall was always grooming himself. That even carried over the way he played. He seemed like he was more interested in looking cute out there than getting the job done.
Oh, God.
You called it.
That's right.
True as that may have been, the pride Woodfield took in his appearance was justified. He was 6 feet with negligible body fat, well-defined muscles, and a sly smile framed by what today might be called a porn stash. To trade in an understatement, he did not struggle to find female companionship. He was a suave, sophisticated fella, says John Carey, a PSU quarterback in '72, confident in himself, but not to the point of being cocky. Woodfield may have been best known at PSU, though, for his devotion to the campus crusade for Christ and the fellowship of Christian athletes. Oh, it's so terrible. A former teammate who spoke recalls it seemed real important to him that he came across as someone who would do the right thing, almost like it was keeping him together.
Oh, God.
Armed with the resources and facing the public relations pressures of a modern-day NFL team, the Packers would have conducted a detailed background check on Woodfield, and the proverbial red flags would have flapped wildly. Raised mostly in the picturesque Oregon mid-coast town of Otter Rock, Woodfield grew up in a fiercely middle-class home. His father had a steady managerial job at the phone company Pacific Northwest Bell. His mother was a homemaker. Woodfield had 2 older sisters who would babysit him. The family was well known and well regarded in the community. Outwardly, Woodfield appeared to be the portrait of normal, but in high school he was caught standing on a bridge, exposing himself to females.
Oh, God.
It's not funny, but...
Ooh.
His parents sent him to a therapist who was not overly concerned by a teenager's exploring his sexuality. Which, you know, I kind of think it goes with the time. Like, we didn't really care as much back then. If somebody was doing that shit now, imagine the, social suicide that guy would have committed.
Yup.
Yeah. But back then they were just like, he's just a guy. It's just a guy thing.
Yeah,
a teenager.
penis. He's exploring it.
Yeah. According to law officials, Newport High's coaches knew about the situation, but wanting to protect their star, chalked it up to an adolescent's lapse in impulse control.
Oh, God.
Police say that when Woodfield turned 18, his juvenile record was expunged. He was a little strange. Maybe stranger than we thought. You just had a bad feeling about the guy, like there was something underneath his mask. PSU teammate who asked not to be named.
Well, yeah, he's trying so hard to be normal, to fit in, but he's just, like, probably doesn't feel anything on the inside.
Yeah, like, kind of reminds me of Dexter. Have you ever watched Dexter?
Yeah. That's a good one.
I don't like it at all. Like, I've watched it, but I hate him. I do not, like, find...
Well, it's good.
Sociopaths charming at all.
That's good. Like, I feel
they try to make it like, oh, you love him because he's like vigilante and like.
Yeah. No, I feel ya.
No.
Yeah, deep down I kind of hated him too because of like, I don't know, he's like, just the girlfriend he was with, she was a trauma baby. And, I like being with her because she's not concerned about having sex because I can't have sex and she's a trauma baby. So it's just like, oh, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Gross.
It's very problematic.
Yes.
Anyway. So later at the Treasure Valley Community College, where Woodfield played football for one season before transferring, he was arrested for allegedly ransacking an ex-girlfriend's home. There wasn't a lot of evidence, so he was found not guilty in a jury trial. He was arrested multiple times for indecent exposure, but he was only convicted twice. Stratton, who didn't recruit Woodfield, says he didn't learn of those arrests until years later. He said, if I had known, I would have said something to the interested NFL teams for sure. As it was, having done little in the way of intel, Green Bay remained interested in Woodfield. He was offered a 1-year contract to serve as a skilled football player for $16,000. The deal came laden with bonuses, an extra $2,000 if he caught 25 passes that fall, $3,000 if he caught 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and, like, this was 70s? It's a decent amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's, like, pro ball money, but...
Right. I don't know how that works, but it sounds like pretty good money, especially if you're just in college.
It kind of seems like... I don't know a lot about how the draft works and how pro ball works, but it sounds like he wasn't officially, like, a team member. I don't know. There was some weird stuff about it. Like, he was picked at late in the draft, so I guess you're not offered a lot of money.
Dang, so I don't know.
Woodfield's contract also stipulated he keep himself in peak condition, avoid consorting with gamblers, and wear a coat and necktie in public places. He signed almost immediately. The money enabled him to quit his job at a Portland area burger chef. But beyond that, this was all validation. He was on the verge of playing in the NFL. Everyone made such a big thing when he was drafted, one of Woodfield's roommates told the Oregonian. He put a lot of pressure on himself to make it big. That April, Woodfield attended a mini camp in Scottsdale, Arizona, an innovation of Green Bay coach Dan Devine. As a special teams coach, Hank Coleman explained beforehand in a letter to players, the mini camp would be a get acquainted period so that in July we can all start working towards our common goal, the championship. Afterward, Woodfield returned to the Portland galvanized, impressed with the speed of the other players, but confident he would make the team. Per the Packers' request, he spent the next month staying in shape and working on his pass catching. In June, the team sent him a first-class plane ticket along with instructions for an airport limo pickup that would take him to the team's training camp in De Pere, Wisconsin. Woodfield declined, opting instead to drive out from Oregon.
What? That's not like him. That's not bougie enough.
I know.
Ooh.
When he arrived, his bio in the Packers media guide listed him as 6 feet, 170 pounds, and assessed him as follows. Cuts on a dime, has good hands, and catches well in a crowd. Fluid and smooth, hustles, good jumper. In July, Woodfield was among the rookies who competed against the Bears in a scrimmage at Lambeau Field. Woodfield survived early cuts and reported to his friends in Portland that he felt as if he belonged. The Packers thought otherwise. They released Woodfield on August 19th, 1974, before their season began.
Oh, shit.
Woodfield Woodfield would later contend, not unreasonably, that his prospects were hindered because Green Bay was stressing a run game that season. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Me neither. Sports help.
Police would contend that the team had other reasons. Packers officials declined to comment for this story. Rather than return to Oregon, Woodfield remained in Wisconsin, settling an hour and a half west in Oshkosh, where he played for the semi-pro Manitowoc Chiefs and moonlighted as a press bake operator. Teammates from that stop recall Woodfield as a smooth operator, a ladies' man, and a bit strange. Fred Auclair, a teammate and roommate, recalls Woodfield bringing home a trinket that he had acquired at a local Christian bookstore. "How much was that?" Auclair inquired. "Well," said Woodfield, "it wasn't really for sale, so I stole it."
Oh, God.
What?
What?
Woodfield, adds Auclair, was on the phone all the time, telling tall tales. He had a woman in every port, it seemed.
What a hoe.
So this is a quote from Tim Temple, who was a PSU secondary coach in 1973. He said, "It shocked me when he went to jail. If there were 100 guys on the team, he'd be the 99th guy I'd suspect to do something like that." After the season, though, Woodfield was dropped by the Chiefs. No reason was given publicly. There were murmurs, however, that the team had off-field concerns. While there are no public arrest records for Woodfield in Wisconsin, a detective would later learn that Woodfield was involved in at least 10 cases of indecent exposure across the state.
Jesus.
As one Wisconsin law enforcement officer recalls, years later, Woodfield couldn't keep the thing in his pants.
Ugh.
Nasty. By multiple accounts, Woodfield was devastated by being cut. "Deeply hurt" was the phrase that the Oregonian would later use, and, curiously, Woodfield acted as if he knew there would be no more invitations from other teams. With his ambitions of being a pro football player killed off, he drove back to the West Coast, and then the rampage started. It took some time before Randall Woodfield graduated to murder, but the build-up was steady. He was 3 semesters short of completing his physical education degree at Portland State, but he rejected suggestions that he return to school. Instead, he cycled from job to job, residence to residence, romance to romance. He was 24 and moving backward in life.
Oh, no.
In early 1975, Portland police were vexed by a series of attacks on women carried out by a man invariably described as athletically built and handsome, armed with a knife. After demanding oral sex, he would take a woman's purse or wallet and run off. On March 5th, detectives set up a sting operation. An undercover female officer walked leisurely through a park, and a man wielding a paring knife darted out from behind some bushes demanding money. Officers converged and arrested the assailant, who identified himself as Randall Woodfield. Charged with robbery, Woodfield gave an extensive interview to police. He claimed he didn't drink or smoke and that he was committed to the Christian faith. He admitted to
fuck off.
This guy, man, he just... He admitted to some impulse control issues and some sexual problems. And he confessed to one vice. He'd taken steroids to augment his physique. Maybe, he speculated, that charged his sex drive.
Oh, yeah, it's everybody else's fault but yours, you fucking manimal.
Manimal? Did you say manimal?
Animal. Probably.
There was a conventional wisdom back in the day that someone who was an exposer or a peeping Tom wouldn't elevate to more serious crimes, says Lieutenant Paul Withroy, a longtime Portland cold case detective who retired from that job last year. Nothing's further from the truth. Former PSU teammates threw Woodfield a party to celebrate his release from prison, but some thought it strange when the guest of honor arrived 2.5 hours late to his own event. Woodfield also got out just in time to attend his 10-year high school reunion in Newport. There, he wore his muscles almost as a fashion statement and told stories about his time in the Packers organization.
The good old days.
"I got to know him. He was a friend. I was surprised when some of this stuff started coming down, but on reflection, I thought, that does sort of add up." John Kerry, PSU quarterback in 1972.
Oh, God.
So this is when he got out of prison. For all his failures, let go from bartending gigs, dismissed by girlfriends, they hardly seemed to come at the expense of self-confidence. He cruised around Portland in a gold 1974 Champagne Edition Volkswagen Beetle. There's another serial killer that also drove a Beetle. I'm pretty sure it was the other Ted fucking Bundy.
Oh, shit!
Anyway.
No way! I think you are right.
I could
What's
be
up with
wrong.
Beetles?
I don't know. Don't trust guys who drive Beetles.
Gee, that's right. Oh, it's cute. I just Googled it. I would have been kidnapped.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
pretty
a
cute
little
little
fancy
car.
thing. I know! God damn it! Pinky, say no.
So this guy took a lot of pride in his physique. He really liked to see and send naked photos of himself to women. It was the late 70s. He was photographed in a state of undress, his abundant muscles abundantly oiled. He mailed the image to Playgirl for consideration. The following May, he received a letter back. Congratulations! You've been selected for possible publication in Playgirl's Guy Next Door feature. Woodfield waited for his photo shoot, and that's when police believe he began to murder.
Oh, Jesus.
On October 11th, 1980, Sherry Ayers, an attractive 29-year-old, was found raped, stabbed, and bludgeoned to death in her Portland apartment. According to the coroner, she died from blunt force trauma and knife wounds to her neck. Former classmates at Newport High, Ayers and Woodfield had reconnected at the Union and had then seen each other socially. Immediately, Woodfield was pegged as a suspect, based mostly on his recent release from prison. When homicide detectives questioned Woodfield, they found his answers evasive and deceptive, but he declined to take a polygraph. A blood test did not link Woodfield to the crime, nor did his semen match that found in the victim's body. In a time predating reliable DNA testing, there was no other physical evidence. It sucks because, at this point, they had the DNA and somebody fucked up somewhere. Apparently emboldened, the one-man crime wave picked up momentum. 7 weeks later, Darcy Fix, who was 22, and Doug Altig, who was 24, were both shot to death execution style with a .32 revolver in Fix's Portland home. Again, Woodland had a connection to the murdered woman. One of his closest friends, a teammate from PSU's track team, had dated Fix.
Okay.
Again, Woodfield was questioned, but police had nothing concrete linking him to the murders.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's right there, people. He's right
I know.
there. Swear to God.
Get something. Get this shit done. On December 9th, 1980, a man wearing a fake beard held up a gas station in Vancouver, Washington, just across the Columbia River from Portland. You've been there.
Have I?
Yeah, we went there. We went to Vancouver.
Cool. Wait,
We
is that where the beach was?
We drove through there to get to the beach.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, definitely, murdery places everywhere out there. There's so much, forest and shrubbery and stuff. You could easily just, toss a body.
Yeah. 4 nights later, in Eugene, Oregon, a man wearing a fake beard and a Band-Aid, or what looked like athletic tape, on his nose raided an ice cream parlor. The next night, a drive-in restaurant in nearby Albany, Oregon, was robbed by a bearded man. A week after that, in Seattle, a gunman matching the same description pinned down a 25-year-old waitress inside a restroom and forced her to masturbate to him.
Ew, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's nasty. Paul and Garcia were sexually assaulted and shot in Central Oregon 4 weeks later. Those were the people at the beginning.
That's so sad.
Word began spreading that there was an I-5 Bandit marauding up and down the northern half of Interstate 5, a ribbon running parallel to the Pacific for the 1,400 miles between the Mexican and Canadian borders. All of the crimes occurred within 2 miles of an interstate exit. The spree accelerated, each crime more twisted and horrific than the last. On February 3rd, 1981, Donna Eckerd and her 14-year-old daughter, Janelle Jarvis, were found dead in their home in Mountain Gate, California, just off the I-5. Each had been shot multiple times in the head. Lab tests would later reveal that the girl had been sodomized. Earlier that same day, an 18-year-old waitress was kidnapped and raped after a holdup 15 miles to the south in Redding. The next day, a similar crime was reported 100 miles up in Wairika, California. So at this time, people were talking about it, and women were being warned to be cautious. On Valentine's Day of 1981, Candy Wilson implored her 18-year-old daughter, Julie Reitz, to be careful because there's a dangerous person out there. Later that night, Julie was shot and killed at their home in Beaverton, Oregon, not far from where the Nike campus now sits.
That's so sad.
She had known Woodfield previously in his job as a bouncer. He had overlooked her fake ID and let her into a bar. From one act to the next, the descriptions were remarkably similar. An athletic man armed with a silver .32 revolver and wearing a tape or Band-Aid over his nose. Abducted a woman, committed a sexual act, and then shot her execution style. Detectives targeted Woodfield as their suspect, convinced that the receiver who turned squeamish running across the middle of the field had become astonishingly brazen murderer.
Jesus. Fuck this guy.
Pick a country, and you likely can find a citizen who has killed ritualistically and repeatedly. Considered the phrase run amok, which derives from a Malay word translated loosely as to attack with homicidal mania. Believing that amok was caused by an evil spirit, Indonesian culture tolerated these violent outbursts and dealt with the aftereffects with no ill towards the assailant. The underlying premise, the capacity to kill indiscriminately, dwells in all of us. Most people just suppress the urge or avoid the spirit.
No way! Because when we were kids, we're always, like, running amok, you know? We never would have thought, like, that saying was, like, to attack with homicidal mania. Jesus Christ, my childhood!
Some kids run amok. I mean...
I run amok all the time!
That is interesting. Do you think that all people are inherently bad and we're just socially constructed to be moral, or do you think it's the other way around?
That's a good one. I want to say I think it's the other way around, but I mean, I've met genuinely, like, good, nice people and everything, and then you do meet, like, those really nice people who it's like, are you genuinely nice, or are you just playing the game of life and just, you know, doing what you have to do just to kind of get by? So, I mean, I feel like people are just doing whatever they need to just to fucking get by, except for this guy. Fuck this guy.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, morality and society and culture vary so much between so many places. Like, if you think back to, like, ancient Rome and, like, Spartans and stuff, like, murder was not wrong. That what like,
a way of life for them.
We change in the way that we think things are right is not, like, where we are now as a society is so different from even 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. I think that we're just socially conditioned. Like, I think that we are wild animals. Not that I don't like our morality. I do like it, and I do think you should be a good person, but I think that it's a social construct.
Okay, boomer.
My Alexa's yelling at me.
Oh, God.
Hey, you stop. I didn't say your name, bitch. Oh, God.
Keep that in.
Okay, boomer. Oh, God.
But no, I feel ya. That's a very, very good way of, like, thinking about everything, too, because we, as a boomer would say, it is very different from, you know, when grandparents were young and even their grandparents, and we are always evolving, but there will always be these people like this guy who's just doing whatever he can to seem normal, to seem likable, to seem like he's doing everything right, but deep down he's just like, he's not. Nah.
Yeah, but, like, if he was born thousands of years ago, there would be no problem because he would be a fucking Spartan soldier and that would be his job. His whole life, he would be trained to be a killer. And then, like, I know things change and they have to change and that's not right, but, like, I don't know. I'm not sympathizing with murderers at all. I think this is totally fucked and sick and horrific, but it's just interesting the way that we are. People are weird.
We are very weird.
The serial killer occupies a singular role in the cast of Americana. Here he, and the vast majority have been male, has been hyperbolized and fetishized, even romanticized. Serial killers are responsible for only a small fraction of the murders committed in the U.S., but they are some of the most notorious figures in our history and culture. Serial killing is twisted fantasy that has roots in the wide-open American landscape, where it is all too easy to hunt and kill without detection and with impunity. That was the quote by Sarah Weinman. She runs the Crime Lady newsletter. It was in the 1970s that agents Robert Ressler and John Douglas of the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit coined and defined the term serial killer, distinguishing one from a mass murderer who kill many at once, or a spree killer who lacks a so-called cooling-off period between murders. Indeed, the 70s marked the crimson-stained height of serial killing in the U.S. In that era, there were a number of factors working in the assailant's favor, from lax gun laws to the popularity of psychedelic drugs to the sprawling interstate highway system to cheap gas. And from the death of surveillance technology to the spotty coordination among police precincts, it may never have been easier to avoid getting caught.
True. Cell phones were not a thing.
I don't know if I'd blame psychedelic drugs, but alright then. Okay, boomer.
Or gas prices.
Well, I mean, if it's cheap to drive around. This guy was all over the place.
Yeah. It's a lot of land to fucking cover.
There was like 100 miles in one day. He killed 2 people in one day, and it was like 100 miles apart or something.
What the fuck?
This is the quote from Rick Raich, Manitowoc Chief's defense in 1974. He was a pretty quiet guy, not very talkative, kept to himself. I've got a team photo and he's sitting right behind me. I would have never thought he was capable of being a killer.
Oh shit. So quiet ones, they'll always get ya.
Yep. Watch out. Woodfield wasn't the only sociopath terrorizing the West Coast around that time. Ted Bundy's killing orgy in the Northwest is believed to have begun in 1974, his first 8 known victims slain in either Oregon or Washington. Jesus. And roughly concurrent with the I-5 killer, Gary Ridgway had begun committing ritualized murder in Seattle, mostly targeting young women. It would take 20 years before he was caught, but immediately he was known as the Green River Killer, a nod to the waterway where his first 5 known victims were found. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Oh, he fucked up.
Yeah, what happened?
He just killed a bunch of people. Fucking horrible. Like this guy, but all these people from Seattle.
So they're like, we got like 3 fucking serial killers right now, and we need to fucking find one of them because there's no way that... Well, I think I remember hearing that they pulled over this the guy we're talking about right now, thinking it was Ted Bundy, maybe? It wasn't? I don't know. I could be getting my stories mixed up.
Ted Bundy was doing it around the same time, too. He comes up, too. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, who do you fucking find or catch? Yikes.
We didn't have the forensics that we have now. Like, it was pretty easy to get away with it. It's just insane. What accounts for our captivation, warped as it might be, with serial killers? Evolutionary biologists have pointed out that as a species, we are hardwired to run away from predators in a way that we don't reflexively run away from, say, sunbathing or eating bacon or other potential causes of death. So the serial killer triggers fear and a visceral reaction rooted in the most basic human nature. Others cite the stirring exploration of the darkest corners of humanity. Serial killers may commit acts of unadulterated evil, but they are also figures that generate at least a teensy measure of titillation, sometimes even affection. In a perverse way, you sometimes end up rooting for these guys, says Skip Hollinsworth, a true crime writer whose latest book, The Midnight Assassin, focuses on a series of unsolved murders in 1880s Austin.
No.
What? Was that a delayed reaction again?
In a perverse way, you sometimes end up rooting for these guys? No. No, we need to stop glorifying.
You know, though, there's a lot of fucking people like that, though.
There are, and all the whammon too, who are like, "You're so hot, marry me," and it's just like, "Fucking quit it,
ugh,
stop."
I thought there was like a serial killer guy you liked, though, wasn't there? There was some nasty guy.
No, I've always been fascinated by like Ed Gein. But never, like, in, like, a romanticized way. Ed Gein was the one he made, like, skin lamps and people.
Ew.
He made, like, a skin
No,
suit.
there was a guy. There was some guy that you said that you, like, felt bad for or liked. And I'm just like, ooh. I don't know if it was fictional or real. Damn it, who was it?
Oh, God. Are you sure that was me and not Faith?
Yeah, I'm positive it was you.
Oh, fuck.
Because... like, I was like, what the fuck? But then I was like, okay, I kind of get it, because I kind of have a thing for Tate from American Horror Story.
Yeah. But I don't remember who that guy was. I don't know. Damn it.
I'm pretty sure it was a fictional
going through
character.
a phase.
It was from a show. It was a fictional character, and he really... Oh, I know what it was! It was the guy from You!
Oh! Okay, well, the way they made the character, yeah. Yeah.
No.
I know it's bad.
I hate
but
him
I would have been
so
murdered.
much.
I would have been murdered. See, he would have got me.
Ooh, he's so grody.
I know, so creepy, but I was like, creepy but in a sweet way, but then that's like how they wanted to create him, and that is what is wrong. Stop it, people.
For real. Like, in the way that we know the murderers' names, but we don't know the names of the victims. Like, it's fucked up how we are.
That's true.
So, this writer, he sees, overlapping elements with football. He says that the reason that we love to watch wide receivers is because they are so elusive and they run a particularly designed route, hoping to wriggle free and catch a pass despite a defense stacked against them. It's the same reason we are fascinated with serial killers. They come up with a particularly designed killing route, carry out the kill, and then make their escape, eluding the cops and crime scene technicians, only to do it again after taking a breather.
Okay.
And while we call serial killers monsters, often they are all too human. There is something unsettling, but also a little tantalizing in the capacity of everyday people, siblings, classmates, co-workers, teammates, to carry out such chilling acts. He seemed like such a normal guy, is the inevitable refrain from the shocked neighbor. This was a central theme for Anne Rule, a prominent true crime writer who, in her best-selling book, The Stranger Beside Me, portrays Ted Bundy as a handsome, well-spoken, good-looking law student who happened to kill at least 30 women. Rule has conceded, I can remember thinking that if I were younger and single, or if my daughters were older, Bundy would be almost the perfect man.
Oh, God.
There it comes up again. Yeah. From her home base in the serial killer hotbed of Seattle, Rule grew interested in the I-5 case and published a book in 1984 about Woodfield titled The I-5 Killer. I haven't read it, but it sounds pretty good.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It's a meticulously reported account, an invaluable resource in this story. Rule's book relied on public documents as well as interviews with detectives, family members, and the sociopath himself. She was clearly captivated by Woodfield's conventional upbringing, jock pedigree, and good looks. Even the breathless jacket synopsis asks how a suspect who seemed so handsome and appealing could have committed such ugly crimes. Which is kind of, like, base. I don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with how he looks, but...
Yeah.
What up? Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. Just because they're good looking. Wow, you're too pretty to do that.
Oh, God. No disrespect for Anne Rule. She seems like a very intelligent woman.
Oh, whammin'.
Okay. The I-5 killer's downfall came swiftly and without much drama. A persistent detective, Dave Komanek, led the investigation. He worked in the sheriff's office of Marion County, Oregon, where a hole had been murdered, and he had his suspect pegged early on. Woodfield had already served a prison sentence for preying on women. He was acquainted with multiple victims. He certainly knew his way around the I-5 corridor, and he matched the physical description provided by multiple witnesses. What's more, Marion County detectives put together a payphone call log that showed Woodfield using calling cards within a few miles of various murders. The irony was rich. The son of a Pacific Northwest Bell employee would be done in partly by phone records. His dad worked at a phone company.
Ah, that's right, you stupid.
After Lisa Garcia picked Woodfield's photo out of a lineup, police interrogated him on March 5th, 1981. They searched his residence, a room he had been renting from an unsuspecting family in Springfield, Oregon, and found telling evidence. The same brand of tape that had been used to bind victims. A .32 bullet in Woodfield's racquetball bag.
Shit, it's stacking up.
Yeah, I read on another article, or I think I listened to it in actually another podcast, that 32 bullets are super rare, so, like, that was a big fuck-up on his part, because if he would have used something like a 9mm, well, those hundreds of boxes of those are sold a month, whereas 32, like 4 boxes of them are sold a year.
Oh,
so
no way.
That wasn't a good choice. I've never even heard of a 32. I don't know what the fuck. I know what a 22 looks like. I don't know what a 32 is. Huh. Is it big? I don't know. 4 days later, police charged him with Hull's murder, Garcia's attempted murder, and 2 counts of sodomy. Woodfield, employing a public defender, entered a plea deal of not guilty. By March 16th, indictments were rolling in from various jurisdictions in Washington and Oregon, including multiple counts of murder, rape, sodomy, attempted kidnapping, armed robbery, and possession of firearms by an ex-convict.
Jesus.
The obligatory Oregonian headline, "Friends utterly shocked by an arrest of Woodfield." But that wasn't really the case. As one former PSU teammate puts it, you just had a bad feeling about the guy. Like there was something underneath his mask. Oh, we read that one already.
That's okay.
That was Woodfield's quarterback that said that. I was surprised when some of the stuff started coming up, but on reflection I thought that sort of does add up. When Woodfield's trial for the incident with Hull and Garcia began in the summer of 1981, it marked the first murder trial for an earnest, fledgling Marion County prosecutor named Chris Van Dyke, whose famous father, Dick, had recently finished up a run on The Carol Burnett Show. At the same time, the prosecutor characterized the accused as an arrogant, cold, unemotional individual, probably the coldest, most detached defendant I've ever seen.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, fucked up. By his own reckoning, Van Dyke had armloads of evidence, overwhelming evidence, and Woodfield's defense was flimsy, predicated on mistaken identity. At one point, the defendant's lawyer went so far as to suggest that Garcia's identification of Woodfield was influenced by a detective's hypnosis.
What?
I don't know.
Oh my god,
Grasping
desperate.
for straws. Yeah. When Woodfield eventually took the stand, he spoke softly with his arms crossed, looking nothing like a star athlete or a handsome Lothario. Here's how Rule put it. The man in person seemed strangely diminished, not superhuman after all. He looked, if anything, humbled, a predatory creature brought down and caged in mid-rampage. Bizarrely, he admitted in court to having owned a .32 pistol, but said that when he learned that, as a parolee, it was a violation to own a firearm, he threw his gun into the river.
No.
He said that, though. Like, why would you... I don't know. Like,
I had it, but I got rid of it. But you should have...
Like, why bring that up? Why even... I don't know.
Yep,
I guess because they found the bullet, but weird.
Stupid.
Lisa Garcia, meanwhile, was the key witness, recalling the horrific night at the office building 5 months later. She maintained that the man she faced in the courtroom was the same man who, she alleged, shot her and killed her coworker. That was the girl that got shot in the head.
Oh, shit.
And lived. On June 26, 1981, Randall Woodfield was convicted on all counts. With no death penalty in Oregon, Woodfield, then 30, was sentenced to a prison term of life plus 90 years. That December, 35 more years were added to his sentence when a jury in Benton County, Oregon, convicted him of sodomy and weapons charges tied to another attack in a restaurant bathroom. District attorneys up and down the I-5 corridor had a decision to make. Even if they could secure a conviction, what would be the point? Woodfield was already almost certain to die in prison. Additional trials would drain their offices of time and resource and would put the victims' families through an excruciating ordeal. Even in California, where Woodfield was accused of killing a mother and her daughter, and where the death penalty would have been an option, the local prosecutor eventually decided against pursuing Woodfield. Still, the list of his victims has grown. In 2012, detectives in the Portland Police Bureau's Cold Case Unit, benefiting from new magnetic bead technology at the Oregon State Police Crime Lab, announced they had matched Woodfield's DNA to evidence from 5 victims: Fix, Jarvis, Eckerd, Altig, and Reitz.
Dang.
So
That's
it took
crazy.
not much time from like 1974 to 2012 for them to be able to match that DNA that they fudged up the first time.
Oh, shit. Damn.
In July 2005, on account of similar DNA matches, Wethroy, the former Portland lieutenant and cold case supervisor, interrogated Woodfield about his connection to the unsolved crimes. Out of the Oregon State Penitentiary for a day, sitting across from Wethroy on the 13th floor of the Justice Building in downtown Portland, Woodfield was pleasant company. I remember that his hair was perfect, feathered and combed. He had perfectly He had a perfectly even tan, nails manicured. He was very charismatic, which makes sense because he would lure victims and get them to let their guard down. Woodfield, though, confessed to nothing. Psychologists will tell you it's a fool's errand, a gross oversimplification, that there's no sense in looking for one trigger or a single event that can explain what internal misfire, what faulty circuitry could have turned a man into a serial killer, and still there's a temptation, near irresistible, to plumb the psyche and fashion an answer to the elemental question we all have of serial killers. Why? Anne Rule, she's the one who wrote that book. She passed away a couple years ago at 83. She concluded that Woodfield killed women as a form of rebellion against his authoritarian mother and 2 older sisters. He actually sued her for this book that she wrote for $12 million, yeah, for, like, libel, and he lost.
Oh, Jesus Christ, no way.
Yeah.
Dang, bitch, $12 million. Okay, you could just give him, like, $5 in prison and, like, call it a day. Can you imagine if you had $12 million?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God.
That'd be insane.
Mm-hmm.
The Portland police think that there was definitely something that happened to him sexually that caused him to be the way that he is.
Impulse control?
I don't know. Is it nurture or is it nature? I don't know. I guess he kept, like, he kept a ticket of the airline tickets that the Packers sent him, and, like, that was his prized possession. He kept them in his wallet and, like, would show them to people and shit.
Oh, shit.
I read about him, like, dating this one girl, and she dated him for a while and then was uninterested. He was, like, boring.
Yeah.
Just very egotistical. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's probably all about him and his accomplishments, and he's probably only with her because she looks pretty or whatever.
Yeah. Very, just, yeah, like you said, all about him. Doesn't give a shit about anybody else. He's 68 now, and he's still in the Oregon State Penitentiary.
So they're not going to charge him with any other murders. They're just going to...
No.
What the fuck, dude?
They did say that if he ever files for parole, that they'll get him. He won't get out. They'll file other charges if he tries to get out of prison.
I mean, there's no way. You'd like to think, right? Like, there's no way he'd ever get out. But...
No, he won't. And if he does, he will get charged for more murders, because they've got, like, a backlog now, so... It's kind of fucked up for the people who, like... I mean, I don't know how they feel, but people who never got their charges resolved, you know?
Yeah,
like, all those places that were just like, meh. I mean, he's already in prison, so... I don't know. Maybe they're happy to not be a part of it, not be dragged into it.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't know. Victims deserve some peace too, but the families probably, like they were saying, don't want to have to go through all that.
Yeah. Cases like these are really interesting to me, where they grew up normal and the families weren't weird, but I guess you never really know what goes on in closed doors. Like Definitely. They said, his mom could have molested him or something.
Yeah.
Or his sisters, I don't know. I think one of his sisters is like a doctor, and the other one's a lawyer. Like, they're pretty top-notch.
Successful. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if he wouldn't have been the way he would have been. So they would have had an NFL player, a doctor, and a lawyer.
It's a lot of pressure, man. Oh my god. Yeah. Did you happen to learn anything about him growing up? Like, is there, like, really any information?
It said it was pretty normal.
That's it? Nothing?
They were middle class. No, I didn't find a whole lot of
That's fine.
background information.
That's crazy. If you just Google his name, there's, like, a recent mugshot of him. Yeah, he still has that stupid fucking mustache. Yeah, and you can tell, like, he's still, like, working to keep his hair, like, all nice and even.
Oh, he's so old.
I know! What the fuck?
You see the picture of all the, like, composite sketches that people described of him.
That second one on the top looks so good. Wow, man, I feel like we learned a lot. We got a good serial killer, and then we just had another person who just...
Two people who got shot in the head and didn't die.
Yes, that is true.
It's crazy. Well, hopefully we didn't disturb you too much. That was pretty gruesome. I don't usually like to... I'm not a big serial killer fan. I'm just... Ugh. But it's interesting. It's interesting, the psychology behind it and how they live their lives and hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in to us, and as always, we do welcome you to join the conversation on our Instagram or Facebook.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, fam.
Answer some of our questions. Do you think that he's a product of nature, or do you think that there was some shit going on behind the scenes in his life that caused, nurture? Did nurture fuck him up, or did nature fuck him up? What happened to this guy? Let us know. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Later.
That wraps up the Spooky Scary Show. If you've enjoyed this podcast, click that like or follow button. We are available on Spotify, iTunes, and all major podcast streaming services. Spooky Scary Show is an independent podcast with big dreams. So if you would like to show your support, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Spooky Scary Show. Also, join in on the conversation. Follow us on Instagram at Spooky Scary Show for science and spooky facts. Scare you later. Spooky.